Hey, what's happening? It's Bill Smith. There haven't really been any Q updates. Today is June 26th, so this thing was the last one we got. QA rescheduled, forthcoming Q. That was on June 22nd. I have, there's been moments where I've kind of I've thought to myself, are they trying to buy time? I'm not saying that's what's happening, but I've had that thought come across my mind a couple times. I know with the Eye the Spy thing, I could have buried it like the day it happened, but I let it run for a little bit because I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was for. It seems though like it popped up at just the right time to keep interest up, in what we were talking about. We were getting a little low there for a while. So I think it was a, psyop shill, whatever you want to call it. Or just a guy playing in his basement, probably. But Q's done stuff like this before where it's like he tries to like drive a bunch of interest and then kind of steps off for a little bit. So we haven't really got any new information in about a week. These were the last ones we got, and together it was all about stuff like that, resistance and organized riots, and it mentioned organized riots, and then this popped up. So Maxine, Mad Max 2020, she's been beating the war drum over here domestically, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, man. Like, it looks like they're overplaying their hand. People are going to get tired of this crap. This is big news today. We're going to talk about this. Supremes uphold the travel ban. Now, there's been 3 big Supreme Court cases in the last week. They've had a really kind of a crazy session here. One of the things that happened is they upheld the gay cake ban or whatever. I don't know how you want to say that, but basically, if you are an artistic creator, if you're going to create something custom or one-off, you're going to use your artistic ability or just your creative ability, your ability to create something new. We're not talking about baking 50 loaves of bread and not selling it to a gay person. We're talking about not having to participate in their lifestyle. So that was upheld. You don't have to make gay cakes anymore. That was pretty big. This one is about the travel ban. Here's the map. Actually, let's open it. So it says, court upholds the Trump travel ban, rejects discrimination claim. Now, this was split down liberal conservative lines. Trump's appointment, Neil Gorsuch, he was kind of, I don't want to call him the swing vote, but he was on the winning side, I guess, the 5-4 side. Okay, so the people that voted against it was the Mexican and the 3 Jews. Breyer, Ginsburg, and Elena Kagan. So they all wanted unlimited. These 4 people want unlimited, unrestricted, full flood. That's what they were looking for. So it says, Sotomayor wrote based on the evidence in the case that, quote, a reasonable observer would conclude that the proclamation was motivated by anti-Muslim animus. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff to think about there. Do you want to lose your country? Do you want to lose your culture? Do you want a bunch of mosques in your neighborhood? Do you want to listen to the tolling of the bell 5 times a day? Is that something you're interested in? You want to see people walking around in sheets, wearing burqas, dressed up like ghosts, like it's Halloween in July? Is that something you want? I mean, if that's something you want, then maybe you should side with what they are saying. But okay, so they were banning a bunch of countries, and where's the country list? I'm sorry, I didn't have that queued up. Right here, it's overwhelmingly Muslim populations: Iran, Libya, Somalia, Syria, and Yemen. It also affected 2 non-Muslim countries, blocking travelers from North Korea and some Venezuelan government officials and their families. So noteworthy is Venezuelan citizens aren't banned, just government officials and their families. I think we're trying to shut them down already. North Korea, that's obvious. Iran, Libya, Somalia, Syria, and Yemen. So Iran, Syria, Libya, Sudan, and Yemen. All these outliers. So these are okay. This is actually interesting to think about. All the people they blocked, so all the people they said you can't come in, are one country removed from the Israeli border. So this is Israel right there, okay? And then Syria, there's a war happening there. We already messed up Lebanon really bad. That was like the Battle of Beirut, like 15-year civil war back in the late 70s to 90s. Jordan, that's a puppet state now, I think. Saudi Arabia is our ally. And Iraq, we already smashed up real good. So on the edge of Iraq and Saudi Arabia and Egypt, you got Libya, Sudan, Yemen, and Iran. And I think Somalia was the other one. And Somalia makes sense too because dude, this is such a bad place. Somalia is such a bad place. It's such a bad place. if you've ever lived around Somalians, man, let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story about this area right here. They don't have power. They got nothing, man. They're living in huts made of cardboard, shanty towns. We're talking about millions of people living out without running water, electricity, anything modern, okay, anything that you would consider to be culture down here in Somalia. And this is where the pirates are, taking over the shipping container ships. Okay, so my brother, check this out. My brother went to school in like Minnesota on a sports scholarship. And there was a heavy Somali immigrant population close to where he lived in Minnesota, which didn't make a bit of sense to me. You're going to send people from the desert who live on the equator up there to Minnesota, one of the coldest places in the United States. All right. So they had people from here. Let's look at them here. Look at this. Look, I'm sure there's plenty of great people in Somalia, right? I'm just saying I want nothing to do with their food, their culture. I don't want to be around them. I don't want to go where they're at. They should stay where they're at and just do their thing, man. I mean, if we need to send them help, whatever. But long story short, they imported a bunch of people into this Minnesota place up in Minnesota. And it was the kind of place where there's zero crime. There's like zero murders for like 10, 15 years. It's that kind of place. There's like 30, 40,000 people there. There's just no crime at all. No one locks their doors, nothing. They import all these Somalis. They started finding like 22 caliber bullet holes in people's windows. Like out of nowhere, this behavior just shows up. People can't figure it out. So the best part is that there was this 3-story or 4-story building, and my brother's buddy lived on the second floor. And he started seeing this like brown goo on the ceiling, like coming down by the walls. So he called the landlord or whatever, and they checked it out. Couldn't figure out what it was. Thought maybe it was just like a mildew kind of thing, Painted over it with the ceiling paint, repainted it. No big deal. A couple days later, it showed back up. Okay, so the guy went upstairs. He couldn't figure it out because there's no pipes there in the walls, It's like external walls and stuff. There's no leaks outside. The roof's been done. He just couldn't figure out what was going on. So he went upstairs to the 3rd floor, and there had been some Somalis that had been imported by the U.S. government and relocated there. And the government was paying for all their stuff, paid for their housing and their food certificates and whatever they wanted, and they had nothing to do there. Nothing. They're just in Minnesota, up in the cold, There's a foot of snow outside. It's 2 degrees. They're just hanging out in Minnesota. They can't leave. They can't do it. You know what I mean? There's nothing to do. And these people, that's their life. So anyway, he opened the door, and the landlord saw that someone was growing corn in their living room. You can't make it up, man. They had taken dirt. They didn't even put plastic down. They just put dirt on the living room carpet and put some corn seeds in it from the store and watered it and turned on the light and watched it grow. You cannot make it up. That's what was happening. These people right here were relocated over here, way over here, up there, somewhere up here. They were put in this area, right? Anyway, it doesn't make sense to me. So that's the travel ban, you know? People growing corn in their living room isn't good for us. We can't. We need to start cutting the dead weight. Okay, how are we going to make progress? You understand that? Like, how are we supposed to make progress when we're importing people who are literally growing corn in their living room in Minnesota? There's just no way to do it. You'll have to take care of them and everyone else forever. It'll just never end. You have to find a way. Everybody that we get involved has to have a way to get involved. You know? And there's only so much room for Uber drivers. So I think we have a problem on our hands. I think this is a good thing. There was a lot of other stuff that happened too. I want to cover this real quick. So this is on The Intercept. The Intercept is the Glenn Greenwald place that released the Snowden files, talking about NSA spying centers. Now, I grew up being anti-NSA, anti-CIA, anti-FBI, anti-police, anti-everything government, right? Because, it's the feds. You want to stay away from them. But I now understand how important these organizations are in order to ensure that our country stays free. Okay? And right now, we are working through this board, right? Excuse me. We are working diligently to get things done, to get our own country cleaned up, to get the corruption swept out, the swamp drained, Washington taken back, restored of the balance of government. That's really what we're looking for. We're not trying to take it over. I'm not for an armed resistance. I know that people bring that up all the time. Let's grab the guns and violently overthrow the government. That does not make any sense to me at all. Number one, if you want to do that, you'll have to have full dedicated cooperation of at the very least your local police force. If you can't get cooperation from the cops and the chief of police or the people that matter on the police force, if you can't make that happen, you don't have a chance. So that's where you should start if that's your idea. If you think you're going to go that way. I've seen what happens. It's never good. And we already have systems in place. We can take back over. So I just want to see everything get restored. So this NSA stuff, the NSA and AT&T have come out and said we support the Internet Bill of Rights. So the way I read that, it's guaranteed free speech, guaranteed Bill of Rights, First Amendment protections online. That may not cover Fifth Amendment though, or sorry, what's this illegal search and seizure? So maybe it doesn't include that, maybe it does. I don't know. I haven't actually seen the Internet Bill of Rights yet. None of us have. If you've seen a draft of it, send it to me. Right now it's just talk, and I want it. I want to see what's in it, and I want one. I want guaranteed. Once we get that, you'll be able to talk about whatever you want, and then we can just let society sort itself out. Okay, but I want the... That's what I want. And the NSA is going to back that with their AT&T partnership. So I'm kind of pro NSA at this point. I don't think I'm very trustworthy of the FBI or the CIA, but NSA knows everything. They don't really have any... They don't have any prosecutorial function. They're just an investigator. So long story short... they've routed backbone services through all these huge hubs. And these buildings, man, are made out of concrete. They don't have any windows on them. They're designed to survive nuclear blasts. So this is some serious no BS stuff. I'll show you a picture of these here in a second. But it's a really, really long article. And it didn't need to be this long, I don't think. It tries to make it overly complicated, but essentially what they did was they routed backbone through these large buildings. There's a picture of the outside of one. It's like a fortress, man. Look at that thing. That's a fortress. Designed to survive a nuclear blast. Anyway, That's all the time I got for now. Maybe I'll report on this again sometime, but until next time, is Bill Smith. Thanks for watching.